A reading from the book of the prophet Jeremiah. I knew their plot because the Lord informed me. At that time, you, O Lord, showed me their doings. Yet I, like a trusting lamb led to the slaughter, had not realized that they were hatching plots against me. Let us destroy the tree in its vigor. Let us cut him off from the land of the living, so that his name will be spoken no more. But you, O Lord of hosts, O just judge, searcher of mind and heart, let me witness the vengeance you take on them, for to you I have entrusted my cause. Verbum Domini. Deo gratias. O Lord my God, in you I take refuge. O Lord my God, in you I take refuge. Save me from all my pursuers and rescue me, lest I become like the lion's prey, to be torn to pieces with no one to rescue me. Do me justice, O Lord, because I am just, and because of the innocence that is mine. Let the malice of the wicked come to an end, but sustain the just, O searcher of heart and soul, O just God. A shield before me is God, who saves the upright of heart. A just judge is God, a God who punishes day by day.
Blessed are they who have kept the word with a generous heart, and yield a harvest through perseverance. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ, King of endless glory.
Dominus vobiscum.
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Lectio Sancti Evangelii secundum Ioannem.
Gloria tibi, Domine.
Some in the crowd who heard these words of Jesus said, "This is truly the prophet." Others said, "This is the Christ." But others said, "The Christ will not come from Galilee, will he? Does not Scripture say that the Christ will be of David's family and come from Bethlehem, the village where David lived?" So a division occurred in the crowd because of him. Some of them even wanted to arrest him, but no one laid hands on him. So the guards went to the chief priests and Pharisees, who asked them, "Why did you not bring him?" The guards answered, "Never before has anyone spoken like this man." So the Pharisees answered them, "Have you also been deceived? Have any of the authorities or the Pharisees believed in him? But this crowd, which does not know the law, is accursed." Nicodemus, one of their members who had come to him earlier, said to them, Does our law condemn a man before it first hears him and finds out what he is doing? They answered and said to him, You are not from Galilee also, are you? Look and see that no prophet arises from Galilee. Then each went to his own house. Verbum Domini. Greetings especially to our viewers and listeners in Ireland on this feast day of the patron, protector, and founder of the faith in Ireland, St. Patrick. Today we are having a commemoration of St. Patrick during the season of Lent. We have the opening prayer asking for St. Patrick's intercession, and that we may follow his example in bringing the faith to others. But in Ireland, they can celebrate this feast, obviously, with greater solemnity, but we're not forgetting St. Patrick today, and for a number of reasons. Today, our offertory hymn also is going to be the breastplate of St. Patrick. This hymn, if you have the Adoremus hymnal, turn to 463. You can join the choir in singing the breastplate of St. Patrick today. But as you probably have heard in the news, there's a referendum that's now going to be in Ireland on May 25th to repeal the Eighth Amendment. It was in 1983 that the people authorized the Eighth Amendment to the Irish Constitution. And this Eighth Amendment says this: the state acknowledges the right to life of the unborn, and with due regard to the equal right to life of the mother, guarantees in its laws to respect and, as far as practicable by its laws, to defend and vindicate that right. In fact, the Emerald Isle, Ireland, remains the only major European country that prohibits abortion entirely. And obviously there are those, and some with a lot of money, who are not happy about that. But they remain this shining light in the midst of the world. And so I had received a letter. In fact, it was last week. There were over 100,000 young people that marched for life in Dublin, walking in the rain. And one of the mottos that they had, one of the slogans, love both. You see, our Catholic understanding is not either or, it's both and. And so we can love both the mother and the child. Love them both. The Catholic both and. But we know that the abortion lobby is pumping millions of dollars into Ireland. Don't be deceived by big money and that kind of influence. Go to your roots, your heritage, which has made you great. The Isle of Saints and Scholars, as Ireland is known. And let us pray on this feast of St. Patrick for the patron saint of Ireland to drive away the snakes again, insidious snakes that are wanting to bring death and the culture of death into Ireland. And do we really think that all of the random acts of violence that we see are in no way related to not respecting the dignity of the unborn child? If we can say the human life can be discarded just for convenience, what are we saying about human dignity? Do we really see that they're unrelated? Mother Teresa of Calcutta, when she spoke at our nation at the prayer breakfast, she saw that they were related. If we can say the mother can do any violence she wants to get what she wants, and we're just saying anybody can do whatever violence they want. Do we really think that they're unrelated? So Ireland remained that light to the rest of the world, that light to Europe, the light to us that we can live differently, that we can have a different way of life, not just manipulated by large sums of money of people who want to bring abortion and all of these evil things into a culture, and ultimately to bring that to Poland and to other places as well. So I received a couple of letters from some of our viewers in Ireland about something very significant that's going on. And this mother from County Cork in Ireland wrote me a letter how she prays 2 rosaries every day, one with her children and one just by herself, for the protection of the Eighth Amendment and this upcoming referendum, this vote, which will be on May 25th. And she mentioned 2 very significant things taking place. The first, I would invite everyone in the world to join. And it begins today. Let us all commit ourselves to praying for the protection of the Eighth Amendment in Ireland, all of us. What is beginning today on this feast of St. Patrick is a 54-day rosary for life. 54-day rosary for life. And so these first 27 days are going to be in petition for the Lord to protect Ireland in this referendum. And then the next 27 days will be in thanksgiving for God hearing our petition and helping us in this time of challenge for the people of Ireland. So please, I'd invite everyone throughout the world that we can all be part of holding up Ireland today and in these next 54 days and all the way up until May 25th, especially praying for God's protection, for St. Patrick's intercession, for Our Lady's help, her powerful intercession in protecting life. In fact, they had a coast rosary, I think it was called Rosary on the Coast, where they went around Ireland and they had planted miraculous medals and they prayed the rosary that there'd be a hedge of protection around Ireland. And that was on the Feast of Christ the King 2017. Rosary on the Coast for Life and Faith. So that first initiative is the 54-day Rosary for Life. And we all can take part in that, especially remembering Ireland in our prayers and in our rosaries these days. And the second event is for the people of Ireland themselves, which will be taking place tomorrow on March 18th, beginning at 2:30 p.m. Ireland time. And what will be happening tomorrow is at the various mass rocks and at the various places where there are ruins of ancient monasteries. And these both testify to the importance of the faith and how it had such an impact for the good in Ireland, and then the missionaries that they would send out here to Alabama included, that we've benefited from these missionaries that have come from Ireland for the Diocese of Birmingham, Alabama. So there's going to be a meeting there to pray. I'm sure there'll be masses offered at these different sites, and I'll talk a little bit more about the significance of those mass rocks in the remainder of this homily. But it was Pope John Paul II, now St. John Paul, who visited Ireland and Dublin at Phoenix Park, Dublin. And there he recalled the persecutions that Catholics suffered in the 17th and 18th centuries, where the Mass was outlawed. And he recalled the Mass rocks in the glens and the forests, where Mass was celebrated by hunted priests. Small matter, he said, where the Mass was offered. For the Irish, it was always the Mass that mattered. How many have found in it the spiritual strength to live, even through the times of greatest hardship and poverty, through days of persecutions and vexations. And when he got back to Rome, he said that those ruins that he had visited are still charged with a great mission So those Mass rocks still continue to testify to that faith that so many suffered for in the past. And Ireland, that's your true wealth. That's your true heritage. The faith and the strength of your ancestors, who are saints, some of them martyred for the faith. So they remind us that life and faith are the treasures worth the greatest sacrifice. So at those tomorrow again for the people of Ireland at 2:30 p.m. at the Mass Rocks monastic ruins at Phoenix Park in Dublin, where Pope St. John Paul II visited, there'll be people gathering to pray for the protection of the Eighth Amendment, calling upon St. Patrick, protector and patron of Ireland, as well as the saints of Ireland, especially our own ancestors who drew strength from the Rosary as they risked their lives to attend Mass and receive the Holy Eucharist at the hands of hunted priests. Back in 2013, I talked about the Mass rocks, and a lovely lady from Ireland sent me this poetic text that I'd like to read, The Mass Rock on the Hill, Dramanu. I stood and looked and thought of times of long, long days gone by, when people knelt in silent prayer and fingered rosary beads, of priests who blessed with saintly hands the people gathered there, when men and women climbed the hill to meet in silent prayer. The priest had come the night before, and word went quickly round, and people trod the dewy grass to pray and worship there, and knelt there on the ground to hear their pastor speak the words they heard spoke long ago. The priest stood on the rocky mound and passed the sacred host around, then bade the people fond adieu. He had his holy work to do, in sheltered dale or rocky mound, to other folk who gathered round. And so beautifully, even though the Irish were unable to go to their parish churches or beautiful cathedrals, the Mass is what mattered. And if it had to be celebrated in secret in some glen or on some hill, on a rock, they would do that in the secret of the night, and they would gather there in the secret of the night, and there'd be a lookout to see if there was any danger approaching for their protection. So another text speaks about these various places that are found in most every district in Ireland. Though robbed of their beautiful cathedrals and parish churches, though deprived of their mass houses and hovels, the priests and people would not bow the knee to Baal. With the quick instinct of devotion and the grand daring of affection, they once again found places wherein to worship their Eucharistic God and King. They went forth to the valleys, the hills, and the mountains, to the caves and caverns of this Irish soil, and inaugurated a period of imperishable piety, which has given to Irish topography names that would be proudly cherished by any nation beneath the sun, and which we here in Ireland should lovingly preserve with the grand and heroic history they so faithfully enshrine. There is scarcely a large district in Ireland in which cannot be found some Irish name that crystallizes a poignant but glorious story, a great and stirring poem on the devotion of the Irish people to the Mass. Note, for instance, the following: the Mass hole, the Mass field, the Mass yard, the Mass trench, the Mass hill, the Mass fort, the Mass lake, the Mass hollow, the Glen of Mourning. And of that last one, I wanted to tell that story, the Glen of Mourning, this place that is called this even today, the Glen of Mourning. It was in the 17th century, during these times of persecution in County Down in Ireland, that Father O'Hagan had come there for the Mass and the people, and it was a snowy day. He had often changed his hiding place and escaped capture longer than most. But there were those who were known as the priest hunters. And they saw on this Sunday morning that people were starting to go in the same direction. And so they notified the captain. And soon horsemen arrived as a Mass was being celebrated by Father O'Hagan and his congregation. Several of them, including the priest, were martyred. Men, women, and children were also killed on that morning. So as today it is still called the Glen of Keening, or mourning, a witness to the enduring faith of the Catholic people, and even in the midst of persecution. This is the rich heritage of Ireland. This is the treasure of Ireland. Do not let it be corrupted by money coming from outside, wanting to change your heritage. Remain that shining light to the rest of the world, of the dignity of the human person, so that we can treasure human life in all of its stages. We treasure human life in all of its stages. And if we do that, you're going to see a change in mentality. You're going to see a reduction in violence. Why do we have to have surveillance cameras? Why do we have to have all of this stuff? It's because we've forgotten human dignity, because we've forgotten God. So let Ireland remain that light shining in the darkness of the world. And let us all support Ireland with our prayers in these days. And I conclude with the breastplate of St. Patrick, which again, our choir will be singing at the offertory today, and I invite you who have the Adoremus hymnal, number 463, to join in praying for St. Patrick's intercession on this day. I arise today through God's strength to pilot me, God's might to uphold me, God's wisdom to guide me, God's eye to see before me, God's ear to hear me, God's word to speak for me, God's hand to guard me, God's way to lie before me, God's shield to protect me, God's host to save me against the snares of devils, against temptations and vices, against inclinations of nature, against everyone who shall wish me ill afar and anear, alone and in a crowd. Christ be with me. Christ before me. Christ behind me. Christ in me. Christ beneath me. Christ above me. Christ on my right. Christ on my left. Christ where I lie. Christ where I sit. Christ where I arise. Christ in the heart of every man who thinks of me. Christ in the mouth of every man who speaks of me. Christ in every eye that sees me. Christ in every ear that hears me. Salvation is of the Lord. Salvation is of the Lord. Salvation is of the Lord. May your salvation, O Lord, be ever with us.